Welcome to Audit Government meeting. Have we got any apologies before we start?
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Burnett, Councillor Fatima Begum, Mahmood Hussain, Rihanna Malik and Nayaz Chowdhury, the independent member. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Number 2 item minutes. We have no time here.
No, Chair.
Okay. Discovering interest. Anybody discovering interest? No. Section 106, Local Government Act. Anybody? No.
No, Chair. None's been received.
Urgent business meeting.
No, Chair. Thank you.
A reference to committee and other bodies.
None received. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, this item that I will move forward. Item 11 can be moved first. Mark Turner. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Can you go annual reports? Yes, Mike. Are you there?
Yes, I am, Chair. Good evening, and thank you very much for taking the report at the start of the meeting. I'm very sorry that I can't be with you in person. This is a fairly straightforward report. It's one that I make each year to your committee. It covers the use of investigatory powers by the Council through the year and the operation of the Council's whistleblowing policy. I'll deal with the more straightforward one first, which is the use of the Council's powers under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, and there has been no use of those powers throughout the 24-25 year, so there is nothing to report to you on that. I am required by the appropriate Commissioner's Office to review the policy each year, and I have reviewed the policy, and I am not recommending to you any changes to that policy. With regard to the operation of the Council's whistleblowing policy, there were 7 whistleblowing complaints received during the year, one of which remained outstanding at the time of writing the report. The other 6 had been dealt with, and how they've been dealt with and the matters that they were in relation to are set out at paragraph 13 of the report. Most of the complaints were unfounded, and with a couple of them in relation to external social care establishments, those complaints could be closed with some corrective action being taken. So that's really the substance of the report, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Any questions? You think you're right?
Thank you. Just the one from me. Thank you. I found the report very clear. I just wanted to check, though, the whistleblowing policy, it says in paragraph 5 that it was last updated in January 2016. Was that when it was last reviewed, or has it been reviewed since then, just not updated?
I review it. Sorry, I've got a bit of reverberation here. Hold on a moment. I review the report, the policy on an annual basis according to how well it appears to be operating. And as the report says, it appears to be operating okay at the moment. We are getting a few complaints still that really relate to personal matters rather than matters of public interest, but that's not sufficient for me to be proposing any change to the policy at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Chair. No, I was just clarifying if it had been reviewed more recently, and it has, so thank you.
Are there any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening.
You can have a nice day. Our recommendation on page 26. The committee recommendation notes that reporter consider whether it wish to make any recommendation to Standard Board Committee on the development of the council whistleblowing policy. Are we agreed? Yeah, okay, thank you. Item 7, we're going. Sharing anti-fraud service. Who's going to take me through?
Good evening, Chair, and good evening, members. I'm Darren Bowler, Accounts and Fraud Manager at the Shared Anti-Fraud Service, presenting the report on behalf of Nick Jennings. I'll be presenting both papers this evening, our annual report for the last financial year and an update on the progress of our work for this current financial year. So the annual anti-fraud report 2024 for 25, despite a small reduction in referrals over the year, it has been a busy and productive year overall. In some service areas, we've seen an increase in reporting, and that is attributed to training being delivered to those service areas, notably schools and parking enforcement. In the year, we were able to resolve 81 low-risk cases with compliance activity. And as a result, we've identified and prevented a combined total of £71,000 worth of council tax and housing benefit. 35 cases were fully investigated and closed in the year, of which 28 identified fraud, with recoverable losses and savings exceeding a combined total of over £1 million. Whilst the number of cases requiring a full investigation has reduced, the value of those has increased. A detailed breakdown has been provided to senior officers for their review. At the end of the financial year, there were 73 live cases under investigation, with an estimated loss of 1.2 million. Last year, the work with the various housing teams resulted in the recovery of 15 social properties. Page 17 of your bundle has an extract from the Lost Homes, Lost Hope paper that illustrates the financial loss and also cost to an authority when a social housing property is misused. At the top of page 18 is an example, if one is ever needed, of why the work in this area is so important. The new tenant of one of these 15 properties that was recovered had said the following about their new tenancy. Receiving this home marked a new beginning for our family. After a long wait, we finally found stability and a sense of security. We especially appreciate the affordable rent. It allows us to focus on our family and future without constant financial stress. Thank you to everyone who made this possible. Part of why we were very busy last year was the increase in the applications under the Right to Buy scheme. We dealt with 128 in total, as well as a further 5 succession applications. 2 of the Right to Buy applications were stopped, and that is a saving of £187,000 to the council. The case study on page 18 of your bundle gives 2 examples, one of a Right to Buy case and the other is of a succession fraud application. Throughout the year, SAFs continued to support the National Fraud Initiative exercise across all the affected services at the council. The numbers associated with this exercise can be high. Reassuringly, not all of them are fraud. There are false positives, error, and administrative issues to be dealt with. But when fraud is suspected or identified, SAFs investigates. 642 reviews were completed with 116 errors or frauds reporting a combined loss/saving of £601,000 at the end of the financial year. As well as all the intelligent investigation work, the data matching and other proactive work, our Prevent team was also busy, delivering training and supporting development of new online training packages, disseminating fraud alerts across the council and the provision of executive reports, 1 regarding multiple employments and 2 currently in a draft form relating to adult care and 1 for the education services. Page 20 of your bundle provides the performance table for the KPIs set last year. All have been met and in some cases exceeded. Chair, before I take questions, and for the record, I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the officers at the Council's professional diligence has made a substantial contribution to our work this year, and also all of the public who have reported fraud to us.
Okay, thank you. Any question? Go on, Wonderwood.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on what you were saying about the public, I mean, it is important that everyone is aware of the potential frauds, because I imagine that things like right to buy and succession, that public awareness is important in those sorts of cases.
So I think that's in two parts. I'll deal with the first one, which is the right to buys. Some of those may be as a result of the public providing some information. Generally, though, we conduct a review of all the right to buys, and that review is not just a administrative review, because the right to buy team deal with that. We look at it holistically and deal with any concerns or issues that have been highlighted by the right to buy team, including money laundering, or whether someone actually has been residing as an occupant for the last 12 months to qualify for them to participate. So there's a sense check that comes from the right to buy team, of which they are very good at picking up that appropriately. So generally speaking, the majority of right to buys are spotted internally. Regarding the public awareness, all of our publicity and anything that we do through the council here carries a report fraud. It'll be report fraud to Luton. That is the same for all our partners, and that link comes directly to us. So we're not really updating everybody's websites. It's just our one update we do if we have a change in how we deal with that. So our telephone number is a 0300 and it's a widely publicised website. So there is a lot of presence out there. And if you were to type report fraud Luton Council into a website, you'll either get our page or Luton's own external page for members to go to.
What was? Oh, right. So yes, talking about the right to buy. Are you confident that you're picking up all of the right to buy frauds, or do you think there is some that's going undetected?
I'm 100% confident that we look at every one, as does the right to buy team. Can I be 100% confident that we're picking up every single thing? I don't think that's a realistic statement to make, because there is always something that may get missed, because of course we take it at face value, but there are some due diligence checks and some sense checking and all of those things that go with it. And there are ways and methods of identifying people that, for example earlier, that may not have actually been living at the property for the last 12 months, so cannot take part in the right to buy. The source of the money is always of a concern, so we prevent the council being drawn into any money laundering issues. And that money laundering, we're not just talking about crime in the sense of drugs or anything else that may instantly come to mind when you mention it. There's tax evasion, which is, a soft form of fraud considered by many. It costs the revenue a huge amount of money. So when we're looking to see how it's being funded, we ask those difficult and uncomfortable questions, and we will do some checks and verification to make sure that everything is in protecting the right to buy team and giving them a report for them to make it. It is their ultimate decision as to how then that proceeded. And in some cases, we then have to conduct formal criminal investigation and interview those.
Thank you. One more, Chair. So I think, yes, as you're talking about the decision on whether to proceed, is that so for the succession cases, is that even more of a grey area sometimes? I know that in our ward we've had a couple of succession cases where you're not too sure whether these people are entitled to the property, and sometimes you get the impression that the people who are claiming succession are not aware that they might be committing an offence, or they might be aware of committing an offence, or they think they still have that right to the property.
The one thing that is pretty clear is in fact very clear, is the legislation around right to succeed a property or not. And the confusion comes because after literally decades, and in some cases many decades of residence at home, which is considered a family home, there is an assumption or misunderstanding that they would be entitled to then go and live in that house. Obviously, that issue is exacerbated shortage of affordable homes, and it rests with the council to deal with all of those people that are in need against the housing waiting list, those things that ensures that property should come back into stock and be issued to the people who need, and there is a process for that. And there is not an entitlement because your parents or grandparents who during time may have lived in a property for a very long time and then no longer to succeed the tenancy. There are qualifying, and again, those are measurable, testable for the inquiries that we make and we can identify. Earlier this year, one of the properties that came back of the 15 was one that had been appropriately taken over by a family member and misused for a period of time, and that so when appropriate and when necessary, council supported by our investigation can make that application to court and cover those properties, and one of those was exactly that.
Any more questions? We start moving on. No? Okay, page 5, you got recommendation. Members to recommend recommendation. Note that act is undertaken by the Sharing Active Road Services to deliver 2024 and 25 Act anti-fraud plan for council. Note B. Note all anti-fraud actions undertaken by the council officers and serve to protect council and public funding limit. Are we agreed with it? Okay, thank you. Number 9. Number 8, yeah. Number 8, okay. Number 8. Who's going to take me that? That you, Nick, again?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the update on the current anti-fraud plan, and just for clarification, that what I'm going to tell you relates to events in the first two months of this first quarter. A total of 55 allegations of fraud were received from across the council, which raised the live case holding to 74. We have been able to close a small number, 7, in which £33,000 of loss and £55,000 of savings have been reported. The compliance reviews of council tax has identified an additional revenue of £9,000. On the subject of council tax, the council has recently introduced a new policy in relation to civil penalties. Those civil penalties are applied when when it's been identified that information provided to the council has identified an incorrect application of council tax reduction or single person discount. That can result in the application of a £70 civil penalty to the account. So at the time of the report, 8 of those had been issued, at £70 each, but the latest figures for the first quarter indicate that a total of 34 of the civil penalties have been issued, which has raised an additional revenue of £2,308. 2 cases have been referred to the Council's legal team to consider prosecution, and 6 cases are currently live with the legal team. The majority of those relate to housing cases. These are all significant cases, often with high losses incurred by the Council and take time to resolve through the court process. 2 cases have trial dates that are set in 2026. In relation to housing, 1 property has been recovered during the period and 6 cases are live with the legal team. The update on our proactive work at page 23 can simply be put as 3 right to buys and 1 succession review completed with no concerns. The completed reviews from the National Fraud Initiative has increased from the previous report to almost 3,000, with loss identified at £194,000 and savings at £907,000. That loss identified, the majority of which will be recovered because it was a duplicate invoice, and I think I will be right in saying that it has already been recovered. Performance to the KPIs is in the table at page 24. Performance is a little too premature to assess, but all are broadly at or close to, are broadly or at close to their targets and are expected to attain them over the period of the time. And at that point, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any question? Kings, and then Shepherd up.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small question. On the National Fraud Initiative, are there any common themes that you're finding on the 33 fraud and 195 errors at all, or are they just spread out over everything?
It would be difficult to apply any themes to that small number, given the 6,000 plus. But it's the common issues. Some mismatch of data, which has led to an issue, or some changes in people's personal circumstances that's not been reported, usually around council tax. And that's where the vast majority will lie.
Thank you, Chair. When it comes to blue badge fraud, is it mostly relatives using the blue badge without the owner being present, or is there a deeper fraud of trying to get a blue badge in the first place?
That's a very interesting question. I'll try and be as brief as I can, but it is there's a number of issues to address. So the application process is very rigorous. I know that, and that a lot of the time it's so rigorous that fraud is minimal, and it's much greater outside of the application process because I believe because of the process is vigorous. If anyone's trying to apply for a blue badge, they'll know how difficult that can be. So that is a deterrent from people making false applications, but it's vicariously a encouragement for people to seek a blue badge in the other way. So we do see straightforward thefts of people's blue badges, so that the window of the car has been broken and the badge has been pulled out. We know from working with the police that is a massive issue across the southeast, and a lot of stolen badges will end up in areas where the cost of using and parking a car is high. So we're talking London centric. So from the outside of the M25, a lot of the blue badges will end up there. Now, that's not to say there's an organised crime gang doing all of that. It's all opportunist and those things happening because they have they're readily saleable and have liquidity. When you are paying double figures of thousands of pounds to park in London, purchasing a stolen blue badge for £4,000 is cheap, and that's the reality of that. We are aware that badges are like any identity document available not just on the dark web but on the open web, and there are websites where you can get a clone badge. You can supply them with your own photograph or just any photograph to go onto the rear of them, and the quality of those blue badges is remarkable. It's excellent. So those two areas are consistent. As regards the details of people committing fraud using a relative blue badge when they shouldn't, it's probably the softest area, more easily to identify if people are asking the right questions. But majority of the time, a car is parked, a blue badge is put in it, and no one sees who got in the car, and enforcement officers can't be there waiting until someone returns. So whilst it's anecdotally probably quite high or as equally as high or potentially the highest, we will never know for certain. So they're the three areas of concern currently that we face regarding blue badge.
Yeah, I can see where theft of a blue badge, particularly if the person is struggling to get out of the vehicle and doors open, it's too easy to just grab the thing and run. So yeah, it's just I have had anecdotal reports of people using mum or dad's blue badge, which I've warned the person that if I hear about it again, I will report it. It is a case of, I think, probably the highest but most untraceable way of misusing the badge, because it's too easy. Oh, I'll use mum's car and mum's got the blue badge, so that's all right. We can park where we want.
The difficult point is that the blue badge is as equally portable as the person using it. Often the blue badge may remain in the car, not always with the person, because one person may be conveying that member of the family around all the time. So yes, anecdotally, it's probably that high. It's realistic to anticipate that. The enforcement teams here are more than willing to work reactively and proactively. So if they have an information, the misuse of blue badge, that will be featured into whoever's got that area to patrol. And it can be looked for, the vehicle can be looked for, and the badge can be looked for. And, you know, over time, we know that the civil enforcement officers have a very good idea of their beats, their patrols that they do, and that they know over a period of time when people come and go from vehicles and know it's there. And just by the process of elimination, turning up at various different times of the day, they can eventually get there at the time just as the vehicle's arriving, or be hanging around waiting for it. And always, if it's a council car park, they'll be there making sure that people have paid correctly in the first place. So it's not a waste of time if they're standing there waiting for it to come in. So it's always worth reporting those to the civil enforcement team here in the council.
Thank you, Chair. Paragraph 9 says that no executive reports have yet been issued for any matters at Luton. Is that because we don't have any system or process weaknesses, or there's been no recommendations to management? Is there any particular?
Those two reports coming out from team to speculation.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, page 21. We got recommendation. It's note of progress by the officer and sheriff anti-fraud service to deliver the 2025-26 anti-fraud plan for the council. Are we agree? Okay, thank you. Item 9, you probably received one of these. Yeah. Who's going to take that to Nikhil? Okay, Shangima.
Thank you, Chair. So this paper sets out our progress update in terms of the 24/5 accounts audit. If I jump quickly to page 6, page 6 sets out the work that we've done during the course of the year to date. So we've completed our planning visit during March and April 2025, where we're roughly where we need to be in terms of that. We did say there we were aiming to get our audit plan to this meeting, which was meant to be the next item. We've had just a little bit of internal back and forth on a couple of things that meant we're not quite there yet. Nothing to do with the accounts or anything, it's just some calculators we've been having to work through. So that will now come to the August committee, but that's still ahead of us starting our detailed work. As we've said there, we're looking to commence the work from, I guess, the end of September. Through, we will be doing some sampling in advance of then to try and make the best use of the time that we've got. Obviously, the aim again is to make sure that we're complete by the end of February 26, where the backstop date is. I think, as we've said in our report, we will aim to sort of continue to work with the council to try and regain assurance. So we'll be looking to focus on the in-year transactions and then moving on to the closing balances, so that hopefully, if we can give you assurance as committee that the in-year numbers are where they should be and some of those closing numbers are where they should be, then that gives us a better position than we have been in the past and helps us sort of move on that journey. Also, the value for money work has kicked off. We've got our separate team working through that. So I know the initial conversations have gone in the diary with Dev and team, and they will continue during the course of the summer to work through those. There's a little bit more detail there on page 7 around, I guess, some of the things we've looked at. We've obviously mentioned, I think in the past, this year is the first year that the new leasing standard appears in the account. So that'll be something that we'll be looking to work through as we get stuck into the accounts. We've had quite a lot of discussion with the group's auditors this year. I think we've had one or two quite interesting conversations, dare I say, in terms of what's gone before. But I've had an email exchange with the auditors of the airport this morning to making sure that we're closely aligned in terms of, I think, placing greater reliance on their work than perhaps has been the case in the past, which I think is the way that the standards would want us to do that. So we've had good, positive, ongoing conversations with the ZETs, and we're looking to move that forward in a positive manner as well. So that's pleasing to see. And I think I would say on the group accounts, I would note on behalf of Dev that the draft accounts, which were published by the end of June, do feature group accounts at the start of the audit this year. They were something that took some time to get to publication last year, so it's really pleasing that they're all there as a complete set at this stage. So thanks to Dev and team for that. Page 8 is just a little bit more summary in terms of sort of the broad timelines that we're looking to work towards, and then obviously some more detail in there. So, and obviously we finalised with some of the sector updates. Obviously there's a lot going on at the moment around local audit reform and the backstop. Obviously some of you may have seen that the government has been passing out grants to authorities that have had disclaimed opinions to help restore assurance. I don't know the exact amount that the council will have received, but it will be a fairly substantial number. I would say at least a 6-figure sum that will be received to help build that reassurance over time. So yeah, the government, I think, is a good number of multi-million pounds across the UK to help build assurance. So that's, I guess, a positive step in the right direction there on that one. So I guess that was all I wanted to sort of go through on that report. More than happy to take any questions from members.
Any questions? Gone?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 2 questions, if that's okay. One for Dev and one for Matt. I'll do the first one for Dev. Dev, I just wanted to check if you feel that you and the team have got enough resources available to service the field work at the timescales when the auditors come. I think I was just looking for a bit of assurance from you on that one.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. So we've brought additional resources. over and above what we got in the establishment, because there was a key recommendation from our external auditors to say there is a capacity and capability. So we've got additional resources, although they are sort of interim, and we're working on the finance structure to put a long-term structure, because I'm sure Dean will agree the account is getting more and more complex, and the deadline to produce those accounts will be shorter. So we've got the resources now, but I would like to get the structure sorted ASAP so that we got a permanent structure. Yeah, but Francis, probably he's joining there. He's joined. So Francis is here. Hans, you've met last time, is here. Richard, who is another interim, is here. So, and we are as well, we're working very closely with our colleagues from GT to make sure we provide everything which is required. Yeah, but thanks very much. I'll keep you up to date if I lack resources. Yeah, but right now it's okay. Thank you.
Then my quick question for Matt is, I've picked up on page 8 that you recommend that we set an Audit and Governance Committee date before the backstop date on the 27th of February. I don't think that's in our plan just yet. I'll look at Marie and we can double check if not. How soon before the backstop date would you be suggesting that we look for, Matt? February, December, January?
I mean, obviously, it depends on diaries. I mean, I guess I would probably say allow a good bit of time before February. Perhaps I would say towards the end of January. Perhaps I guess it's always helpful to leave a little bit of flex in case something does happen and those kind of things. But I guess if we say sort of towards the end of January, I guess it allows us, because if we're starting in October, I guess we know that December, I guess, will be reasonably limited from both sides in terms of what we get through. So I guess end of January probably will allow us to give you as complete a report as possible.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I think what you've been talking about and the tone of what you've been saying might have already answered the question, but we're talking about on page 6, there's a possibility we might not be able to undertake sufficient audit work, and where audit work is not complete, this will give rise to another disclaimer of opinion. So can you say that we're confident that there won't be a disclaimer? I mean, and if we do get into that sort of situation, are we in danger of getting into this loop where, because we haven't got assurance on opening balances for this year, then that's going to affect next year, so we won't have assurance then, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, so I probably should have been a bit clearer, Sam. I think we're pretty much on sure it will be a disclaimer opinion because of that prior year issue. What I would say is that there's been some guidance literally come out this week in terms of the regaining of assurance, which obviously we as a firm are looking at and working that through. I guess as I think I said last year, it's going to be a 2 or 3 year cycle to build those things back. I think the key for us this year is to be able to come to you as a committee and say, right, we're comfortable with that in-year position. That's kind of our step one. So you as a committee can go, right, what's there, we're not so sure about, but we know that if where the council said it spent its money this year, that's where it has. And then if we can start to build on that and do some of the closing balances work, then it then makes it an easier position for the next year, because then we're going, right, we know where that position is, we know some of that stuff. If we then do another year of in-year plus closing, you're starting to build quite a ranch of evidence there, and actually then the fact the opening balance has some uncertainty starts to become less and less important. I mean, there's still things that will need to happen to clear that. I mean, it's effectively the reserve side of the opening balances is the concern, and obviously that's everyone's clear that something needs to happen to resolve that. But it's trying, for us, it's trying to build that assurance. That's what we're working to across all of my backstop jobs. And as I say, hopefully if we can get to that place, and that feels like a stronger position than when we were last year and starts to turn the corner ultimately.
Okay, yeah, thank you. About the group accounts, you were talking about getting an email from the airport auditors and being closely aligned. I mean, are you confident that you are closely aligned on the group accounts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be careful what I say in terms of what's gone before, but certainly, yeah, we've had, myself, Sheena, and the team below her have had regular communications with Ben, who's the engagement partner at ZETS, who does the work on the airport and the other subsidiary. We were conversing even this morning in terms of making sure that we're aligned, because effectively what should happen what should happen is that they will do their work on the airport's accounts, working to our materialities, which then means we can then place reliance on that work rather than us having to do that work ourselves. So it should mean hopefully a more efficient audit in the ideal sense. I'm slightly gutted whether that's happened in the past or not, but certainly we're all in agreement of what needs to happen this year. We've had conversations with ZETS in terms of getting that assurance. They're starting their audit next week, so actually their work will probably be done before we even get to start our work. So actually we should flow quite nicely in terms of that. But yeah, and we're communicating regularly with them in terms of their findings, and that obviously the airport is an entirely different set of accounts. Obviously they've got the massive asset on their balance sheet, so their focus is primarily on that value. I guess where we still have to look at some of the things from the revenue expenditure side of the council, which is considerably lower than that. So yeah, I think they will be having to probably do more work, but we then will be able to place reliance on that work. So in a way, hopefully ensures a more efficient audit between the two of us, to be honest. And we are having conversations internally within the firm around whether we can tweak our group materiality, because at the moment we're kind of limited in terms of how we set our group materiality, which doesn't make things particularly helpful. We are having conversations at the moment around whether we can get our materiality in line with the way ZETS would set it for the subsidiary, which would then mean a reduction in work overall. So it's because obviously yourselves is a very unusual situation in that most local authorities have got a subsidiary, they're very, very small, and those kind of, you could almost look at the group accounts, it's the airport with a council attached on the side, which often isn't the way around it is. So yeah, we're pushing those conversations through. I say there are obviously things within the firm's overall risk management we have to go through on that, but the signs at this stage are positive that we can do that. So whether we'll necessarily get it through for 24/5, not sure, but if we can get it there for 25/6, again, that will be another step that will help us move things forward as we go on.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Actually, it's just probably it's like a request for a bit of information. Talking about IRF 16, I'm reading through the information. I wasn't too clear about what's the effect of the new legislation is. How is that going to affect the audit work and generally the council's accounts?
So, I mean, the sort of team will have had initial conversation with it. I'll need to have a look at the accounts and work through sort of the actual numerical impact of this. But effectively, in simplistic terms, what it will mean is that there may well be assets that previously would have been off balance sheet will now be on the council's balance sheet. So the asset number will have gone up by whatever sum it is. And obviously we will then just have to check that effectively then those assets get treated as if they're owned by the council, so they have to be depreciated, revalued, etc., etc. So we think in reality, as we talk about in the sort of the slides there, in reality, knowing what you've got or those that you know about are probably, most councils will be able to, I guess, value those accordingly. The key risk on these is the completeness task. Like, how do you know you've picked up everything that would meet a lease under the new standards? So we've got some guidance which I'll look to share with Dev shortly around just kind of things that we've been looking at and things you'd need to do to sort of give us some assurance over the completeness of that. Because in reality, it's a bit of a Pandora's box in a way in terms of how far do you go down, what contracts you look at. It's very, very complex. So I think that really for us as auditors is our main concern this year, is around that completeness. How do you know that you've picked up everything? I think the stuff that you know about should be relatively easy to manage. It's just that, completeness piece. So, we'll obviously work with Dev and team to sort of make sure we can get as much assurance as we can over that.
Nick?
Hi, I was reading the proposal for the questionnaire for the training, and that's the one, and the areas you picked up for us for training. It's I think we need to go for it because day by day the legal rules and regulations and the area you mentioned for the risk factor, it's very important to know that what we are taking a decision before we need to know. So I'm happy for that. So at least anyone can know that we need it at the moment. and not only the audit and governance, but other areas as well, like legalization. And I'm agree with him, because according to the balance sheet, profit and loss, it's so much tricky to make it, and we need some more skills.
Yeah, I concur with that. I say we'll look to get through absolutely as much as we can. We recognise the importance of it, given everything that's going on at the moment, and those kind of things are saying. Obviously, the value for money stuff will provide that more rounded view, I guess, aside from the finances and stuff. So yeah, no, I mean, and the value for money work, I suspect we'll probably be able to get ahead of schedule, but I guess we put that there as kind of a backstop in terms of time frame. But yeah, no, understandable.
Are there any more questions? No? No? All right, everything. Okay. A recommendation on is committee to recommend to note the extend audit to report, yeah? Right, number 10 on August, yeah? So we're going to skip that, number 10. Number 12? It's coming back on August. Number 10.
Sorry, Chair. Apologies, but I thought we were having a verbal update from Matt. That's to.
I mean, I'll just very briefly say, I said what we said earlier, that effectively we were planning to get the audit plan for this meeting, but we'll put it to the August one because we're just clarifying a couple of things internally. So yeah.
Thank you. Number 12 is going to check. Okay, go.
Good evening, everyone. The purpose of this report is to provide the committee with the opportunity to consider the internal audit annual report for 24-25 and to note the annual audit opinion. The main point to note from the report is that based on the areas of audit assessment, whilst there are some concerns, an adequate level of assurance can be provided in connection with the Council's overall control environment. The full report is noted in Appendix 1. If I may spend some time to go through the key areas within Appendix 1 on how this assessment was arrived at. So if I take you to paragraph 2.6 of Appendix 1, this explains that the annual audit opinion is based on the audit manager's assessment of the internal audit reviews which were undertaken during 24-25, assurances received from other sources where these were available, management responses to audit findings and progress made to implement recommendations, any effects of significant changes to the financial systems, and the extent of resources available to deliver the audit plan. Paragraph 3.3 of Appendix 1 states that we have a target to complete at least 90% of the audit plan by the end of the year. I'm pleased to report that as at the end of the financial year, we completed 93% of the plan, which is a good achievement. I'm also satisfied that there has been sufficient coverage of the plan to deliver the annual audit opinion, and there have been no matters arising which have threatened the independence or objectivity of the internal audit service. For 24-25, we issued 73 audit reports, and if I could briefly take you through the key areas of work which this related to. Paragraph 3.8 within Appendix 1 details the governance and risk management work undertaken. We were able to provide a reasonable assurance on the adequacy and effectiveness of the Council's governance and risk management framework in place. The appendix also includes a link to the Corporate Peer Challenge Progress Review report on the progress made by the Council to implement recommendations raised by the peer team last year. In terms of key financial systems, details are contained within paragraph 3.13 of the report. So key financial systems and processes are audited on a risk basis. And of the reviews that we concluded, we issued 1 substantial, 4 adequate and 2 limited opinions. The limited opinions related to the capital programme and IR35, and a summary of the findings and progress for these 2 reviews are detailed in tables 1 to 2 from paragraph 3.16 onwards within the report. In terms of the assurance audits that we undertook, the details are contained within paragraph 317 of the report. and a large part of the audit plan covers assurance work. So of the audit opinions that we issued during 24-25, again, I'm pleased to say that 80% resulted in an acceptable level of assurance. So this was either an adequate assurance opinion or a substantial assurance opinion. The audit reviews that presented significant concern related to specific parts of the council, and we have raised that it is important that the recommendations made on these areas to improve control are implemented in order for a continued acceptable assurance opinion to be given. In terms of the stats, the substantial assurance opinions issued were 3, adequate assurance were 32, limited assurance were 8, 2 of these I've already mentioned, which related to the capital programme and the IR35. The other 6 limited reviews related to IT governance, IT key controls effectiveness assessment, street cleansing and refuse collection overtime claims, assistive technology solutions, fostering services, recruitment and training of foster carers, and adult social care spend. There was 1 no assurance opinion which related to transport send. Details of these are contained within tables 1 to 9 within the report. Where we issue a limited or no assurance audit opinion, we would carry out physical follow-up reviews approximately 6 months after the final report has been issued to confirm that the implementation status of the recommendations which have been raised. Paragraph 3.23 within Appendix also details the additional reviews and the fact-finding reviews that we undertook on 3 areas of concerns, which were highlighted by management. This related to the Arclight House, ICT Transformation Project Review, procurement and contract management of translation services, and again a summary of these findings and a progress update is detailed in tables 10 to 12 within the report. It's important to note, but whilst these 3 areas were unrelated, we have reported previously that we did note that in each case there were similar themed control weaknesses in relation to project and contract management governance arrangements and budget management, which ultimately led to an adverse impact on the council's finances, so budget overspends on these areas. This is an area of a potentially higher risk that will continue to be closely monitored. We also follow up on audit recommendations, and paragraph 3.26 details the results. We were just short of the target to ensure that 75% of all agreed recommendations were fully implemented by management. Of the recommendations that we followed up, 74% were confirmed as fully implemented, a further 23% were in the process of being implemented, and 3% were not implemented at the time of the follow-up. Other areas of work include counter fraud, and the committee has received a report from SAFs in terms of the work which was undertaken for 24-25. We also undertake grant certification work, and the team certified 9 grant claims to confirm that the terms and conditions of the grant were met and all grants were cleared satisfactorily. We also undertake consultancy and advice work to respond to emergency issues and risks and to requests from senior managers for audit work. Third-party audit reviews, and these include reviews for Vauxhall Homes and Luton Rising, and the findings from these reviews are reported directly to their management and board or audit committee. In addition to the audit work, we are also required to confirm that internal audit complies to the public sector internal audit standards and the SIP for local government application note. Paragraph 6.1 within the report confirms that we work to the prescribed standards and have a quality assurance and improvement programme in place. In addition to internal assessments, external independent assessments are also conducted at least once every 5 years. In June 2024, our internal assessment also confirmed that we generally conform to the requirements of the standards. As the committee is aware, from 1st of April 2025, all public sector internal audit functions are now required to comply with the new global internal audit standards for public sector, and we have worked through the new standards to determine how this will impact internal audit and to address any gaps. I'd just like to kind of finish off by saying that the internal audit service is delivered by a range of skilled and experienced staff, and during the year staff have maintained their positive attitude and have continued to work well, which is highlighted by positive feedback received from audits and requests for advice and further audits. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the internal audit team for all their hard work in achieving the plan. I think they've done a great job. In terms of the recommendation, the committee is asked to receive the internal audit report for the financial year 24-25 and to note the annual audit opinion on the council's overall control environment. I'm happy to take any questions on that, Chair.
Go on.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the send transport, send in general is under huge scrutiny nationally. Will you be continuing to monitor? Because I know with your audit reports you look at different. Will you continue to monitor this, particularly send and send transport, due to the issues that are being raised nationally?
As part of our work on the send transport, yes, we will certainly do a follow-up review in terms of the issues that we'd identified. And if there are any other kind of further emerging risks and issues, again, we will revisit those areas as part of the audit work. Thank you.
And just to comment, I'd like to make a comment once we've got through all the.
You want to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Question, go on, Honourable.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, just to reiterate what you said about the work that the internal audit team are doing. So yeah, I think that is it's appreciated. Just a couple of questions. I'm sure I've asked this one before about. So apologies if the answer is going to be the same if it's the same question, but. I think you identify in the report that there are themes like project management and contracts and procurement. So you mentioned in here that for the translation services, then there is procurement, e-learning training. I mean, is that so? Presumably, that's a new policy that all staff have that sort of training. And does that also apply to general project management, so that staff are aware of some of the pitfalls that can occur if you're not following that sort of project management, those sorts of project management guidelines, so that can head off these problems that can occur, if that makes sense.
So in terms of the procurement training, there's an e-learning module available, which has been kind of developed by the procurement team, and it covers various themes. So officers are kind of encouraged to take up that training. As part of every procurement exercise, the panel is also given a face-to-face training session by the procurement team in terms of the processes which need to be followed when they evaluate the tenders as part of that process. And they're also required to complete conflict of interest forms as well. So if there are conflicts, they're declared, and there's transparency. As part of the new Procurement Act as well, there's a lot of more transparency requirements in terms of what we're required to do, what we're required to publish. So again, the policies and procedures have been updated to kind of reflect the new Procurement Act as well. And there will be kind of training delivered across the board around what the new requirements are. Thank you.
More, please, Chair. Thank you. Okay, so 74% of the recommendations have been fully implemented. So it's almost reached the target, which is great. We're talking about themes. There seems to be some issues that are persistent. I mean, presumably a lot of these cases that are resolved, the recommendations that are implemented, a lot of those are probably very easy to sort out. I mean, the ones that are persistent, the ones that it takes time, the ones that have limited assurance and it takes time to resolve those. Are you looking for themes within those persistent ones? And do those persistent issues threaten the rest of the audit process?
We do certainly look for themes as we're kind of doing the work and the issues that have been identified. And the most persistent one that we've identified is around project governance. That's more of a high priority risk that's been identified, particularly under the current kind of environment around financial constraints as well. So it is important to, that particular risk is on the corporate risk register as well. So again, I'll come on to the corporate risk register later, but it is something which is on the radar and which is being monitored. In terms of the capital programme, again, there are various measures which have been taken to strengthen the capital monitoring process in terms of the completion of returns by project managers, using the financial system more to kind of interrogate that, and also reporting those updates at DMT level as well. So there's more of an oversight. So certainly strengthening those governance arrangements, and that oversight should strengthen those controls in those areas. But certainly we will follow up, and if we do find these issues are persistent, again, we'll escalate those to senior officers.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. It's really positive, Kanchan, that you've got more completed on the audit plan than the 90% target. I just wondered about that last 7%, when you expect that to be concluded.
So you'll note on one of the appendices, a lot of those last 7%, we've either deferred them to the 25-26 audit plan, and some have been identified as work in progress, so the auditors are actively working through those to complete those as soon as possible. Thank you.
So is there a rough timescale of when you think the work in progress ones will be completed? Or are they imminent?
So certainly within the next couple of months, we're expecting those to be completed. Thank you.
Okay, no questions? Come on, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just would like this committee to send its thanks to the internal auditors for all the work that they do. When I first joined the council in 2003, and saw the reports were quite depressing, I think, is not because it was the lack of take up of recommendations, which I know you and your team have worked very hard over that period we get reports now where you're nearly hitting your targets on full recommendations being implemented. You're hitting more than your targeted audits being completed. And I think we as a committee should put our thanks in to the record for the team.
Councillor Malik.
Thanks, Cantina. Our report is very quite sufficient and quite very, good to explain in one go, But on the page 30, paragraph 9, it says, of the audit opinion issued during 2025 to 80% results. I want to know about the outstanding 20% results. Are we working on it? And which areas are related to 20%, if you can guide us?
So the 20% are the limited and the no assurances that we've reported on. So there were 8 limited assurances, which are detailed in the report, and 1 no assurance relating to transport send. And I can tell you the paragraph number that they relate to, paragraph 3.19 and paragraph 3.20 within the appendix. And there are tables within the report which provides a summary of the findings and a progress update on those particular audit areas as well.
Nine, we need to focus on it.
These are the ones that we have concluded and we're able to report on. So as we report through the 25-26 audits, and as we kind of conclude those pieces of work, we'll then come to committee and report on the outcomes of those reviews as well.
We'll cover to find out this situation, to assess for the full assurance.
So with all the limited and the no assurances, we have an action plan in place with the management team. And what we would do, we would follow up on those recommendations to ensure that those recommendations and the control weaknesses we've identified have been addressed. And then we'll report back to committee in terms of the progress being made to implement those recommendations and to see if we can increase the assurance opinions on those particular areas where we've kind of identified that there are particular control weaknesses. So we will certainly come back and report to committee on the outcome of those reviews.
So how long it take time roughly?
Normally, we undertake a physical follow-up review 6 months after we've issued a final report. And what that does is that allows the service to embed those recommendations. So if we come in too early, we often find that they're not quite ready or there's not enough evidence to kind of demonstrate to audit that actually these recommendations have been implemented. So normally we would, so 6 months from now, by about December time, we would have completed the physical follow-up reviews for majority of these. And then probably around Q4, we'll start reporting back the outcomes to committee in terms of the recommendations. Thank you.
Any more questions? No? Page 29, the recommendation. The committee is asked to receive the internal audit annual report for financial years 2024 and 25 and notice the annual audit option to on council overall control and environment. Are we agreed? Thank you. Corporate risk, who's going to take me on?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So this is the Corporate Risk Register Update report, and it provides an update to the committee in terms of the corporate risks and the risk management work being undertaken. If I can take you through to paragraph 6 of the report. So as you're aware, in February 2025, the Council's external auditors presented their interim auditor's annual report for the year ended 31st of March 2024 to this committee. This report included a commentary on the Council's value for money arrangements and also made recommendations on key areas of improvement. One of the recommendations related to the Council's risk management arrangements. So whilst it was identified that the Council has comprehensive risk management arrangements in place, including a corporate risk register framework, it was felt that this could be enhanced by mapping the risks within the corporate risk register to strategic objectives. And when reporting to committee, to include a control measure update for all risks and not just for high priority risks, and to also review the number of corporate risks being reported. Since the last update to the committee, the corporate risks, control measures and risk assessment scores have been reviewed and refreshed by risk owners, and there has also been oversight by CLT, and the risks are always subject to ongoing review. Following the refresh, the number of corporate risks have reduced from 39 risks to 33 risks. So a lot of duplicate risks, or whether are overlaps, they've now been removed from the risk register. And the updated corporate risk register is attached at Appendix B. In addition to providing details of the corporate risks and the residual risk scores, the register now also contains links to the corporate priorities, and the control measure updates have also been included for all risks as well. The heat map at section 9 of the report plots the residual risk scores for each corporate risk, and as you can see, the majority of the risks assessed by risk owners are classed as medium high priority. There are 2 which are now high priority, and details of these are also contained in section 10 of the report. So the first one is in relation to failure to keep to the approved budget and the impact on the financial resilience of the council, and the second one is in relation to cyber attacks. I'm happy to take any further questions on that report, Chair.
Any question? Ms. King, okay, then Shepherd.
We were quick, weren't we? Thank you. Just the one question from me. On page 71, I'm interested in the cyber attack high risk, because I think the control measures seem a little light in detail on that. Have they been implemented or are they being planned? So any extra you can give on that would be helpful.
Due to the sensitivity of that particular area, that there has been a brief summary on this within the report, but there will be a further a report from the service director, because I know there's something on the forward plan around cyber attacks and fraud scams as well. So there will be a much more detailed update for the committee later in the year around that subject area. But in relation to the control measures which have been identified, so there is a cyber incident plan in place. So that details the actions which need to be taken if there was a cyber attack. So it's quite detailed, and it also has an escalation process within that plan as well. And key officers are aware of the roles and responsibilities around that area. In relation to business case for phishing simulation, this is something which is in progress. So again, this is to kind of test the awareness on the inside around staff's knowledge around this, and whether staff are being careful about clicking on links, around that. So it's kind of testing the organisation's awareness and adherence to policies and procedures. The key control is around doing the cyber awareness training. So this is a mandatory course, and all staff are encouraged to participate in that, because that is a prevention measure which would work quite effectively if everybody was trained up on that particular area. Thank you.
Thank you. So on the cyber awareness training then, if it's a mandatory one and staff are encouraged, what's the take-up rate on the staff training for that? I don't expect you to know now, it's fine, you can come back another time.
I can find that out for you, and if that's okay, I can email you afterwards around the take-up on that. But I'm aware there are 5 different modules that staff have to complete on that, so it's quite a detailed, comprehensive element of the training that needs to be done by staff. But certainly I can get back to you on the take-up. Thank you.
And is it, I'm so sorry, just this last follow-up, I promise. And if staff don't take it up, is there management action, or how are staff encouraged to do it?
I believe this is being monitored at CLT level. So, and again, staff would be, the managers should be encouraging staff, and they should be receiving reports in terms of training take up as well. So they should be ensuring that staff undertake that training. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Helen just did, yes, you asked the question about, that's okay, about cyber attacks, and also touched upon one of the other questions I was going to ask about training. I don't think it was at the last meeting, I think it was at the training session that we did. I asked a question about AI awareness amongst staff, and I think someone was going to come back about the training for training staff around AI, about the awareness of AI. And I think I believe there is training for staff in the use of AI. Presumably, there's also training in the dangers and the risks in using AI. Is that correct?
I believe there's being a policies being developed around use of AI. So again, I'm not sure what the current position is on that, but I can certainly come back to you around that question. To kind of look at the risks around the use of AI, around that, and certainly around a particular report to committee. That's one of the areas that will be covered, but by the report which we presented later in the year to committee around AI, the risks of cyber attack, and also the fraud risks associated with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more, please, Chair. It's good that we're now mapping the risks to the strategic objectives. It's just, I wonder if it might be an idea. So in Appendix B, we have the risks reported by risk level, and if we're mapping them to strategic objectives, would it also be useful to display the risks grouped by strategic objective? Then something might come out that's not otherwise immediately obvious.
Yes, of course, we can do that. We can rearrange that for the next report. Thank you.
More questions? Go on, shall I?
Thank you, Chair. Given that cyber attacks on central, local government, the NHS, are more likely to be terrorist rather than financial attacks. How much cooperation are council having with central government and other local authorities in a combined defence?
I'll have to get back to you on that particular question. I'll certainly raise that with the risk owner for a response, and we'll get back to you on that one. Thank you.
Nationally, I think, rather than each individual authority, because it's something that possibly could be provided as a general defence rather than each individual local authority.
Okay, any more questions after that? No? Basically, the committee is recommended to remove and update corporate risk and register here. Are you agreed? Thank you. The final one then. An Audit Government Committee draft work program 2025. Who's going to take me through?
Chair, may I please? Yeah. So this is just the work programme to the end of the municipal year in March. We need to add the additional meeting at the end of January next year, which I'll work out. I just wanted to add if possible, another item on the Luton Shareholding Group annual report that needs to come to this committee as a recommendation from the governance review. That's right. So we've just got to work out which date that will be. Members happy for today? Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, go on.
Sorry, thank you. They weren't ready from. Yeah, they're not ready yet. Yeah, no, so we haven't got any. But yeah, we're hoping to get them all to the August meeting.
Okay, Mr. Katz.
Thank you. I mentioned this at the last meeting, so I understand there's not been time to change it yet. But I was wondering if Dev and Matt and Marie, you could just get your heads together and clarify that for the external audits reports that we've got them in the right meetings, because I think we've got a bit of a crossover. We've got the statement of accounts coming lots of times, and I don't think that's fair on anybody. So I'm just wondering if you could just offline have a little look at that and make sure we've got the right things under the right meetings and not duplicated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any? Oh, yes.
Shall I introduce that? So, tabled is the skills.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry, from the training event, and it's the skills. Is it assessment? Sorry, Councillor.
So this is the SIPFA self-assessment for audit committee members. So at the last training session, you may recall we mentioned about all members completing this self-assessment, and then we'll then use this to inform any further training requirements. So what we'll do, we'll collate those responses and see where there are themes or gaps emerging from the responses we've received, and then we can use that to inform further training sessions for the committee. Thank you.
So thank you. So that's been circulated online as well by email. So yeah, whichever's easier. But you send them to me or to democracy, and we'll collate them and pass them on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, once you fill it up, and you'll see. Yeah, you bring and use. Okay, and I think this is it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your attending. Thank you. Have a safe journey.